somebody says they're taking down a tree here, and then I'm like, okay, whose property is this? So I reach out to SDOT, Parks. So we kind of do that internally, and they have the weight of the charter that we all signed to say we are responding. And also it wasn't an executive order, but it was Mayor Murray kind of directive that OSC was to coordinate, and that's kind of like how give it its weight. What I would hate is for the commission to put your reputation on the line without us actually finding a way to make sure that if an email comes through, whatever it is that we put together, that there's gonna be that kind of action. And I'm not saying that people in departments wouldn't wanna do it, I just don't know that they have the capacity to respond in a certain timeline to so many different things, right? Because they're receiving these from mayor's office, from council, from Time to Fix It, and from Trees for Seattle, and then ESOT has Seattle Trees, and then City Light. So I just wanna make sure that the trust that is being built is based on what the commission does and can provide, and maybe not risk trying to promise that you're gonna get a reaction or a response from a department, and that might not be the case.
And I think that's why I like that submission. If it's like, if you have not heard back, please know that there is an overwhelming amount of work from each of these departments. You may try again if this email is a much different.
Right. I would actually really prefer, if that is the case, that everything will come to me, and then I'm the one that triages. Because also sometimes, it takes a little bit of finding out and a couple of conversations before knowing who that email really needs to go to.
Yeah.
And what we have noticed, for example, ESDOT has the Seattle 684 tree phone, and sometimes people have said, it's like when I hear option A, I mean, they just push regardless because it's such a lengthy, if you want this, if you want that, if this is an emergency, I mean, I think they get tired of number 4.
Yeah.
So, but if we can get it all to me, and then that's part of the agreement we already have, and as the community, the Urban Forestry Commission liaison, that's part of my job, then I think we might be able to give it a dry run and see how that works. And I can then, make sure that the commission's reputation is not suffering for something like that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially because we're building relationships across many different sectors, and I think that's important to respect the public sector's time as well, and all the different employees. I think my biggest concern is, even at my company, I spend so much time tracking down who's gone where. I literally spend a lot of time talking. Every time I get somebody from the city on the phone, I'm like, how's it going? Where's so-and-so? And that is all so that I can make my processes internally more efficient. And I think, if we're going to do that, and I think that makes sense, my ask would be on our website that we actually update every single contact for any department that is related to tree issues with parks.
Again, I would like that contact to all come to me. I would like, maybe we can put in the website, in the resources area, if you have any questions, send an email to trees.seattle.gov. That way it goes to me, and then I figure out how to triage it, and of course, keep you abreast.
I don't mean emails to us specifically or that. I just mean we need to do a better job, I believe, as a commission of connecting people to the right people.
And that's me.
Yeah.
So I'm the right person.
Yeah.
And then I find out who the right person in the department is.
That's what Trees for Seattle, I see, is supposed to do, is that we've dealt with that over.
Yeah.
Now I understand.
It's been dealt with over a number of years, trying to update the city website and make the connections. If you're concerned about if it's a tree in the planting strip, you contact SDOT, et cetera. It's sort of that directive thing, and it's basically improved a lot over time.
Right.
So there's a lot more information, and it doesn't have to come through the Urban Forestry Commission per se. I think the Trees for Seattle is the main focal point for the city for people who have questions on trees.
When you have a question about a street tree, however, there are all the different districts, and the inspector from the district as these things are going through each phase, there's a delay in response, and so in terms of building trust, I think it's so nice to be able to contact, and it requires a lot on
So for the tree, Sandra, the information you're wanting to curate to go to, like, I guess that's what I'm trying to do is understand the form of the comments that you wanna see versus this type of information, like that Whit's looking for, and if you actually care about what Whit's trying to find out, and what like there's phone, there's email, are people, cause there's the public trying to find information, there's the public wanting to comment on situations, and then there's also us wanting to understand what people are commenting on, the major hot topic. So what I'm wondering is if the finding out information, if that's something you wanna see as far as for specific things, because I'm hearing you, like, for the Trees for Seattle goes to your inbox.
Right.
That might, just kind of the headings of what you wanna make sure you don't lose in this aggregate.
The main thing is I don't want you guys to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
That we're spending a lot of time and resources, making sure it works. And I believe that it has improved tremendously the way we react and respond to people. From, you know, my checking that specific, when I'm in an area that I can reach email, I check it all the time, on weekends, and then I send it to people, and we found, like, for example, there was one tree that was about to fall on a major street, and they sent us the photo. It was, I believe, a Saturday, and I sent it around, and Mars was right there.
Yeah.
Somebody else is like, they're in the process of cutting trees, and it's in this area, and we need to figure it out. And instead of usually when they report it to a DCI, if it's after hours, you know, good luck. So then when it comes through me, I have the ability to go and say, guys, we are asking more information from this person, and we need to figure out a way to use the information they already gave us and respond, instead of having them, you know, dot all the I's and cross all the T's. So all I want is to put at your service the kind of structures that we have already created in our staffing to a much higher level than this commission is staffed, to deliver on those on response and better and excellent customer service. All I want is for us to realize that the commission, you guys are volunteers, and this is our full-time job, and we can always improve, and we are very short-staffed in many ways. So I just don't want to put all of this on you, if there's something already in place that we can use for that purpose. In terms of being able to sort and better position the context of input being provided, I might be able to do it sometimes, but I don't know that I would be able to do it consistently. But we can give it a try, and I can spend a little bit more time and try to provide a one-time context maybe, and see if that's helpful.
I think one of the things that, so there's two goals of the context. One is just for people who might not be as aware if they're doing this code, or, you know, because the commission, you know, has different expertise. And so that's one thing where perhaps what we do is come with questions about the comments, you know, and it's not something you have to do, but it means we're taking up time at this venue. So maybe it's something else, like, okay, if you have a question on this, you know, feel free to email, you know, which commissioner, like, feel like maybe have more, and then it, like, just one-on-one commission emails, be like, hey, I had a question about, you know, this, to only one commissioner, so we're not getting the public meeting. The other thing is, for the comments, is to try to somehow count them, and what are they about, so that we can report it to the mayor and council to say, you might not be seeing this feedback, but it's there, it's just coming to us. And so that, I think, is something that I'm a bit worried about with staffing, is taking that extra layer and saying, this comment would be categorized as this hot topic. And so I think one of the things we were thinking about, if I'm reading between the lines that you guys were saying, which, correct me, is a way with forms and things to be able to, the person self-says what the hot topic is, to not increase your staffing time spent on this.
Something else, though, that I would really like to presence in this conversation is that the type of comment the commission or any commission or city government receives is not representative of the community at large.
Mm-hmm.
We have, that's why we're trying to really do a better job at doing inclusive engagement, because we continue to hear from people that are more affluent, better, positioned in the socioeconomic status to be able to spend time in interact with government. We know that a lot of the people of color and the Equity and Environment Initiative focused communities don't feel comfortable expressing that. So I would be just cautious to show these comments that come from a relatively small group of people as representing what Seattle believes and thinks. That's why I find it very exciting to be going to communities that are usually not at the table. So again, I would be concerned about counting in reporting on comments that are coming from a very narrow sliver of the community.
But I think we could comment on that being the case, and part of the form could collect demographic information if we wanted. I think the reality is, though, switching it to a platform like Google Forms or a Microsoft platform is going to be, I think, at least with young people, I am way more likely and less concerned. I will accept just about anything without reading the terms, unfortunately, And I think a lot of us can say that for, whatever we're doing on the internet, right? So if you have a form that's like, I accept, and it's just like a few clicks, you are going to get more diverse engagement just by nature of changing the platform to something contemporary, accessible, and desirable.
I will say, I feel like at a certain point, email is somewhat exclusionary, so that's where what I'm wondering is, after our discussions, maybe something we can ask is, how would you like to give us comments? And that way, then we can circle back to what platform we need.
I'm gonna have to end the conversation.
Just one more point. The other thing I'd suggest is, I think we probably should put on the top of the Urban Forestry Commission, that sort of what we do. Like, if you have comments on pending legislation, if you think certain things aren't working out there in terms of protecting trees or whatever, then we sort of give an indication of things to comment on, which then goes to, if there are things like, there's a tree falling down right now, then definitely it has to go someplace else, because we aren't gonna go out and take care of it. It needs to, sometimes you need to route it to the people who can respond, and we're not gonna be able to respond to a lot of those things.
Okay, so I'm gonna cut us off. First of all, thank you very much for the substantial amount of work you've already put into this. I've got a bunch of actions that I'm gonna spend 30 seconds, if people are willing, to kind of summarize this, and then we can talk offline with corrections and additions and so forth. Whit and Bonnie, you were gonna work on selecting groups to engage with.
And we'll love, if anybody has any feedback and thoughts on some good communities you're aware of, please do email
And then
us.
you'll touch back in with us when we get towards the listening session portion.
Exactly.
Okay. Sandra, you're gonna be looking at what's possible for software, both in terms of meeting access and forms, what kind of forms we can use through the city, and as well as social media policy, and what we can do there. Sandra, you and I are gonna talk a bit about what's possible in terms of changing meeting time, meeting place, meeting format within our current rules and what we can do. We are gonna touch back in on how this engages with the urban forest management plan, public comment, and I think we've got a couple months there. And the point that Steve brought up at the end was this idea of a one-pager. what is it that the Forest Commission does that we can put out there in the public, and maybe this also has 2 pages and the other one's an FAQ, that helps route people towards resources. Does anybody want to volunteer to take a stab at that 1-pager?
The FAQ, or, I think the
Either.
FAQ seems like more doable for me. I think not being a new member, I'm not quite sure, because I do a lot of editing, and I'm hoping that we can find a creative solution to edit and get form
So-
through a Google Doc, for
Yeah.
example, you know?
So you'd be willing to draft an outline of the
Yeah.
FAQ?
Right, and I
With
just,
someone
again,
else.
I just wanna represent the fact that there cannot be a Google meeting because
Right.
that would trigger public meetings.
Yep.
So we need to be very aware of how the commissioners are interacting, because if we have 6 or more than 6 commissioners interacting in any one platform, it's triggering a public meeting, and we cannot go around all the public meetings.
So if 2 members were editing a live document,
That's
that's
fine.
fine, but if 6 invitations exist,
Seven.
it's 7.
As long as it's 7, remember what happened with council and the mayor's office when they were having conversations around the head tax and all of that, that's a no-no. And that's why I always encourage you all to just respond to me, not to respond to everybody, because then it becomes a conversation and that actually becomes a meeting.
So
That we need
perhaps
to
we
make
can
available
make,
to the public.
a lead on these sort of projects and invite no more than 6 folks. And if
Right.
anyone wants to be a secondary support, they can log on to that Google Doc, OneDrive doc, whatever, and provide assistance.
The other thing we need to do is, it's not just when other people out there can meet, it's also, you need to do when people in the commission can meet. You know, and I think doing that in terms of trying to look at meeting times, like there may be days of the week that 5 people can't make it. You know,
Right.
so it's like trying to figure out when those times are also.
Right. And is this discussing really the role of the commission?
Yeah.
Right? The role of the commission is to look at the policies the city is putting in place, is really at a high level, right? And I know that there are very specific elements in the ordinance, but in general, you know, the commission only looks at a project when it has policy, real big policy implications. And I think potentially, the way I see it, and it's really up to you, I think is having a more interacting conversation and in just relationship with community can be part of it. It might not necessarily have to be it all, you know, you guys might not be able, and I don't want you guys to burn out because now you're meeting here, there, and everywhere at all times, right? So I think it's a great conversation to discuss, and I will do the best I can to find the resources to support you in anything that you want to do, because I think this is very important. And it's only 9 years in the making.
Thank you.
It might be having one meeting that's standard place, the second meeting of the month is someplace else. Just so that there's time and now, okay, we can get this work will be done at this meeting and different work will be done at a different meeting.
Okay,
I know
sorry.
we're going on a tour in next
Yeah.
month.
Yeah,
Am I still allowed to bring him?
of course.
Okay, I don't have his car seat, I know.
He's your passport.
Yeah.
Okay.
With a baby already had, you know.
Okay.
Sorry to go over, folks. We didn't get into our final item. Apologies.
I'll move it to the next agenda.
Public comment?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote down 9 things, and, so when Witt started talking, I started streaming live, so we're on Facebook right now. So number 1, last week, Sally Bagshaw came through, she asked, what is the response to the mayor's executive order from 2017? And staff said that it was DCI. So today DCI came and briefed you and didn't know. So I think that you guys are marginalized. You have a situation where trees are regarded as amenities, not assets. This comes from a lack of a tree inventory. So that brings me to point number 2. The accessory dwelling unit ordinance environmental impact statement is being appealed right now. There is 50 pages about the trees in the documents in that appeal file. The MHA appeal happened hot and heavy. You're wondering what's going on. There was a month-long hearing. Number 4, the sound transit logging of 5,300 trees showed a photograph of an arborist with inadequate safety gear, which is a violation of the labor and industries OSHA statute, so they're investigating that. Number 5, when you do have your tree ordinance, rather than having a public hearing where the council members listen, have a public meeting where you interact with the public. So right now, you're not interacting with me. That's a bad situation. For me to have to sit in there and have a list of 9 things just go by the wayside is out of context. So number 6, the 2017 executive order says that the tree ordinance will be enforced. Number 7, the Seattle Channel Archive. So here, this is 2019. In 2009, this ordinance that we currently have was written. Tons of online video of the planning committee meetings and the city council and other things. And I called the Seattle Channel and I said, hey, I cannot find the archives. They're gone. Seattle Channel is erasing public records that are more than about 5 years old. So you might want to look into that. So what I do is I commonly take my camera and I point it at my computer, and then I play Seattle Channel recordings and I hit record on my camera. So I have some of these archives, and I don't know if you've seen them, but I post them on my YouTube channel called, it's on Michael Oxman's YouTube channel, and it's called Urban Forestry Commission Videos. Okay, then number 8, okay, Seattle Green Spaces Coalition. You heard Sally Bagshaw wondering what's going on with the Seattle Green Spaces Coalition. So last year, after Plan Amnesty was invited to come here and brief you, the Seattle Green Spaces Coalition requested to receive an invitation from you to brief them on our activities, and I'm on that board. So here it is a year later, and you haven't invited the Seattle Green Spaces Coalition, and it's after the time that the city council member asked.
Please get in touch with me so I can put you on the agenda.
Great, this is how I get in touch with you. Okay, so number 9 is triage, okay? So one thing that you could add to your triage is code compliance complaints. So there are a lot of tree complaints, and guess how many violations there are? Tiny few amount. Well, why is that? It's because the inspectors in the Department of Corrections don't really understand the tree code. And then the last thing is there's several listservs with Tree Legal is an email list server. There's the Parks and Open Space Advocates list server. There is the Tree Pack list serve. There is a bunch of other ones. And so I have approached many of you and offered, I haven't met you. I can answer your questions about what the alternative opinion is about city policy on trees. Guess which people have contacted me back? Very few. So you don't receive a reply from these groups. I don't CC you on these emails. So you guys are excluded from the urban forestry activist community, and yet you're supposed to represent us. We're your constituency. So wade in there. Thank you. And answer the comments that appear on this video on my Facebook channel, because there's people. I have 5,000 friends, and they're watching this video right now.
Send you two things.
Oh, wonderful.
This is important. This was.
Notice they're not replying to me. Notice they're not replying to me. They're going home.
Next time we meet, it's special.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. There they go.
This was, I just came across this today.
Hey, see, you got a few of my email messages, but guess what? You didn't reply, and so you haven't been getting them for about the last week.
I've been struck out.
Yeah, it's okay.
You're not the only person that I haven't replied to. But it's no offense to you.
So how do you feel, so that's, okay, so that's ended. How do you feel about being marginalized because trees haven't been appraised as a community asset or only regarded as an amenity that is optional?
It's no good. I'm consistently trying to change that opinion. That situation. So, but it's very difficult.
When that gal said, I don't know how the mayor's tree enforcement action is, that was probably the best 10 or 15 second video clip of this whole meeting, because what it really means is that DCI is out to lunch, and that they have no intention of enforcing that. Executive order.
I have a growing complaint